Hello there, everybody. Today is Friday, May 24th, 2024.
Why does it say we've been recording for 2 minutes?
I don't see that. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. What the heck? No.
That's the NSA fucks. They've been recording.
Oh, no, it doesn't say we've been recording for 2 minutes. We were talking for 2 minutes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it is. No.
Yeah.
No. So this is AuntBB, Barb Hammer, and with me today is, what's his name? American Everyman, Scott, Nomadic Everyman. I missed the bow tender name on the channel, your YouTube channel. I missed that.
I miss that.
I kind of miss that.
It's sleepy Everyman. Sleepy.
Yeah. You just woke up from your nap.
God.
I can tell.
She calls me at 3 o'clock.
Either that or you're stoned.
I can't do weed. I know. Is it?
I'm kidding.
Cannabinoid hyperimmunism syndrome.
Oh, you told me about that once.
So I can't even get stoned. It sucks. Anyway.
Can't even.
Yeah. They make it legal, but God says no. Going for this motherfucker. How you doing?
I'm fine. So you suggested this because I had sent you an article by C.J. Hopkins, Christopher J. Hopkins, originally from Miami, Florida. And I was so disgusted with the article. And you looked at it, but you didn't want to, it was just the usual stupidity. But this is a guy who kind of sits on the fence. But in the end, he's defending Zionism. That's what.
And has a history of attacking Erdogan in Turkey.
C.J. Hopkins?
Yeah.
Well, really? I haven't seen that, but I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like any government. He just lumps all governments together. They're all the same.
Well,
he calls them Globocap. Globocap.
He says that he's always in the middle because, some people call him a Zionist and other people call him an Islamophobe.
Fascist. Islamofascist, yeah.
Islamofascist, but also Islamophobe.
Yeah.
Fascist means that he's in support of Islam. Islamophobe means that he's opposed to Islam. So that's not really different. If you say you're a Zionist and an Islamofascist, that means you're the same thing, basically. That makes sense. You're a Zionist and Islamophobe.
Islamophobe, yeah. But he claims he's accused of being an Islamofascist.
Oh.
I've never seen anybody call him that.
Yeah. Islamofascist, yeah.
Yeah, but the stuff he says is, Zionist propaganda. So I don't know. I don't get this, But so he's gutless. He's just gutless.
What was in his article?
What?
What was in his article?
Well, his article the title was Asymmetric Idiocy. So it was a take on the term asymmetric warfare.
Yeah.
And it's a false comparison between Western Israel, and the Palestinian cause and the resistance. He doesn't see any difference.
Well, there's a reason he had to delve back into the second and first Intifada. There's a reason he had to go back. He kept saying in his article, I miss the old days of the 70s and the terrorism of the 70s. Yeah. Because Hamas is not what they were back in the fucking 70s.
Yeah.
Well,
they didn't exist until the 80s, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was resistance back in the 70s, but they weren't organized as under the umbrella of Hamas in the 70s. You're right. But his point is that like you said, he's making a false comparison between not terrorism of what's happening now from Israel to Hamas, but what happened on October the 7th to the early days of the Second Intifada.
Yeah.
It's a false and deliberately misleading comparison that I noticed. I don't know what else he knows, but I noticed
he's repeating the same bullshit that Hamas was targeting civilians on October 7th.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And we know that's not the case. And more and more it's come out that the casualties that day were the fault of the IDF, not Hamas.
Yeah. It's hard to get actual numbers, which is important. They keep tossing the number 1,200 innocent people, perished on October the 7th. Well, that's false. First of all, the number is 1,139 so far total from the IDF and Social Security Administration of Israel. That's a total number since October the 7th. So that begs the question, how many in the IDF have died from October the 8th until today? That number is subtracted from the 1,139, and that tells you the total number of people who were killed on October the 7th in that attack. It's not 1,200, and I did notice he cited that number 1,200 as well. So the number 1,200 is false to start with. Secondly, let's say there were 500. So you said take the 500 IDF soldiers who were killed from October the 8th until today. From the 1,139, that gives you what? 639. Let's just spitball. So I've done this exercise before in a previous video, in a previous article. So now you got 639 people killed. And I think that's roughly what they claimed, the Israelis claimed, happened on October the 7th. Now you've got to take into consideration, you say these are 639 innocent people who were killed on October the 7th. Were they really innocent? First of all, were they really innocent?
Yeah.
If you're talking about the IDF soldiers, then that is innocent because they are participating in an occupation, an illegal occupation, and a bloody occupation, and a ruthless occupation. So that any IDF soldiers who were killed on that day weren't quote unquote innocent. They were fair game when it comes to being a resistance group fighting back and resisting for your own fucking salvation, for your country's salvation, for your family's salvation, for your salvation. So that's the first thing. So now that number, the 1,200 is turned to 639, the 639 is turned to whatever after that. Lastly, as we've talked about before, the reality is there were no 40 beheaded babies. There were no babies who were put in fucking ovens. There were no babies hung on fucking laundry lines. And in fact, it's entirely possible there were mass numbers of Israelis killed by other Israelis on October the 7th. Mass numbers. We don't know exactly how many because, as they said before, it would be a tragedy of morale in Israel, said an IDF spokesperson, if they actually released all the fucking numbers. But I do remember in his article, he does mention that rave and the civilians who died at that rave. And I also happen to remember in my own research that helicopter pilots and various IDF spokespeople have said in the past and quoted in Israeli media that their Apache attack helicopters opened fire on people on the rave, and they acknowledged killing large numbers of Israeli civilians. So we don't know how many Israelis were killed. We don't know how many were killed by the IDF, but it is from all estimates a significant number. So that's when you mentioned that article to me and I went and looked at it, those are the problems that I saw with it. And it's offensive.
Yeah, and the image, the picture for the article is the 1972 Olympic Games.
Yeah, the Olympic Games. Right.
Yeah. So he's using the stereotype, and it was interesting that he uses that image because when I was on the street and I ran into the former apartment, the building manager at the apartment where you used to live, we got into an argument, and that was what he said. He was saying all Palestinians are terrorists, and he said history, Munich.
Right.
See, this is the stereotype that they use. They will bring up all the time. They're all terrorists. Munich. Well, we're dealing with Hamas right now. The legitimate government in Gaza. Hamas. Yeah, but they're terrorists. They're all terrorists.
I agreed with you when you told me about this, and I read it. I didn't think it deserved a video of its own, but it is. We have to also remember, and we should, and this is, I think it's fair. He's been under scrutiny in Germany. He's under legal pressure in Germany for making reference, I believe, to the Nazis, i.e., what's going on with COVID. So, is it possible that he's trying to garner favor in this way? Because let's be honest, Germany has gone way overboard when it comes to supporting glorious Israel in this endeavor. Probably because of how so many people feel. Germans themselves have been stigmatized, if that's even a word, because of what happened in the 1930s. They're going to overcompensate by being super supportive of fucking Israel no matter what. Is it possible that he's trying to garner some kind of influence?
Well, at the same time, he hasn't backed down from his views on COVID and the censorship.
Yes.
And not only that, he has no sympathy for he's come to this, he has no sympathy for the protesters, the pro-Palestine protesters, who are experiencing the same thing or worse, really worse than what he's experiencing in a way, you could say, especially the Palestinians in Gaza. You know, if he's trying to...
Or Israelis.
Yeah, for that matter.
Article today, this morning, about teachers.
Yes.
in Israel who possibly suggest that, maybe this is overkill, whatever. Not only are they being fired, they're being rounded up and arrested. They're being detained.
Yeah.
And charged.
Yeah. So he's just being he's being a prick. He has no sympathy for other people who are experiencing censorship or persecution or for their views. Like what? And he said his justification saying he's claiming, well, they didn't say anything during the COVID, crackdowns. Well, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that.
We've noticed that as well, that there are some people who are, we've noticed that there are some people who are on the on the ceasefire side, who were also maskies back in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
But we've also noticed that there were anti-vaxxers who stood alongside us back then, who are now 100% on board with fucking Benjamin Netanyahu, Ben Giver, and the goddamn fucking Zionists in Israel. Yeah.
But we weren't. See, there are people he doesn't know, There's some truth to what he's saying, and yeah, you can make that comparison or contrast. But there are people, this is what I object to. There's so many small voices you don't hear from. So there are people like us who oppose both the COVID crackdowns, mandates, and are opposing, what Israel is doing, the Western Israel is doing to Palestine. You can, because you got to make that connection. And look what Israel was the worst case in on mandates in the world. I would argue the worst country. And what Netanyahu did to his people.
I would support that argument if they're the worst case that I know of, and we don't. I can't tell you, all 199 countries. If anybody have worse situation with mandates, but I can also tell you that there are several fucking reports out of Israel that have been cited by the frontline doctors and people like Dr. Campbell and others. So they are also on the front line in terms of producing some really good results in terms of talking about what's actually happening with these fucking mRNA fucking jabs. So there's been some good reports out, I think Israel was one of the first to come out years ago saying that, the people with these jabs are the ones who are the vast majority of them are the ones who are getting sick with fucking COVID-19 again and dying from COVID-19 again. And I think at least one that I know of study came out of Israel talking about COVID-19 jabs causing heart attacks, myocarditis and pericarditis. So, I mean, that's also happened in Israel as well, luckily. But you're right. They were.
Yeah, the big problem.
Netanyahu sold them out to fucking Pfizer.
Yeah, the COVID skeptic influencer, most of them, almost all of them, there are exceptions, are all on board with Israel and shitting on Hamas and all that. This is what is sickening. And I was thinking about this morning, and I'm going, oh yeah, these are the same people who were shitting all over China. And, when I brought up this argument I had on the street with the building manager that I knew, and you pointed out, and I'm noticing this more, it's just masked, it's veiled bigotry, racism. Yeah, so look at the Chinese. Oh no, the Chinese, and oh, those brown people in Palestine. Oh no, yes. You know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And COVID-19 and the experimental jabs, in their minds, took place against us.
Yeah.
And by us, I mean white folks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and C.J. Hopkins, like the German government does shitty stuff. He moved there in 2004, if I remember reading correctly. And I've known this for decades. I knew they had strict laws about Nazi symbolism and all that. Here, he's basically, the stereotypical ugly American. He goes to Germany. He still can't even speak German properly. He's been there 20 years.
Yes.
And he doesn't even, hello, this country has laws. So if you're going to live there, you better. And even his publisher told him not to do certain things with book covers.
Including using the book, the art of the book cover. Right.
Yeah. His publisher told him not to. He does it deliberately. He likes to play the victim. Remember on Twitter, he was saying, oh no, my site is being blocked. And we pointed out it was his security software, and it wasn't blocking it. It just had posted a warning when he goes on his computer. Right. And it just says click continue. And he's, oh no, I'm being censored. My site is being blocked. He just likes to play the victim. It reminds me of the Zionists. Oh no, I'm a Jew. I'm being persecuted. I'm like, yeah, that's him. He likes to play. Like when he's the target. Oh no, the world is coming down. But if, thousands of Palestinians are being slaughtered, oh, forget that.
Yeah.
Oh, the last image in his article, if you go to the end, so of course he cherry picks photos. So he's got student protesters wearing masks, pro-Palestine protesters wearing masks. That's the picture. he posts on his article.
I don't understand what that's supposed to mean when they say, "Oh, why is it wearing a mask?" Do they not understand what facial recognition software is? Do they not understand that people are punished?
Yes.
People are punished
for
having a different fucking opinion in this goddamn world we live in, especially the westernized world. Also in Israel.
Yeah.
You know, is that concept completely fucking foreign to them? And because someone doesn't want to be fucking recognized and then fucking kicked out of school or kicked off or like the truckers in Canada have their accounts seized, does that necessarily make them some kind of nefarious fucking actor involved in all this because they're wearing a fucking mask?
Well, he sees the mask.
When I saw that,
yeah, there's context.
I saw that, I was like, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, as a context. And in some of the groups, they have told them, you know, it might be a good idea to wear a mask. They have told the protesters. I know that. Yeah.
I mean, you can go back to Occupy when fucking Tim Balding, what's his fucking
Tim Pool.
Tim Pool. That's how Tim Pool earned his fucking his way into like the establishment where he is now. That's why he's got, you know, he makes $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a fucking year now. What he did was he went in as a live streamer and he live streamed as close as he could get to the organizers of Occupy. He was sent there by the fucking cops. He admitted that he knew the cops were watching his fucking live streams as he was doing it. He went in there with his live stream shit to pretend like he was in support of fucking the Occupy protesters, and his job was to capture them on fucking live stream so they could record them, use facial recognition software, figure out who they were, and then contact their family members, contact their fucking employers, and put pressure on them to fucking shut the fuck up and get out of the way. That's how Tim Pool got to where he is now. So, of course, anybody involved in any kind of protest right now, especially in the West, should, you know, if they value their future, should wear some kind of fucking mask.
And they have been punishing students. They don't grant them their degrees. The ones have been protesting at some of the universities.
They've been calling, there's been voices calling for ruining their fucking futures.
Yeah, yes. There's the Canary Mission. There's a project, the Canary Mission, where they dox people, try to get students, professionals, you know, lose their jobs, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
It's a thing. It actually happens.
They want them to they want to pay the ultimate price. And of course, you know, Michael, what's his fucking face, said the same thing. Talked about that a long time ago. Yeah, CJ Hopkins, he's done some really good stuff in the past.
Way back. Yeah, I started following him.
That way back, but he has some good stuff on COVID. But I mean, and it's hard to find somebody who is on the right side of pretty much everything like you and I are. It's hard to find that. But when you do find it, you find it in little quiet corners like this.
Yes, exactly. This is my point. I'm sick of these big influencers. I'm sick of them.
Right. Because somewhere, somehow, somewhere down the line, there's someone's going to pay. Someone's got to pay.
Yeah.
They've got to pay the pipers someplace.
Yeah.
You know? And at some point in time, like all these people who were right on COVID, they were right on mRNA, they were right on all of this shit, except for they all wanted to blame China for it.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're all right on all this shit. But when it comes to fucking glorious Israel, it's the fucking, you know, evil and fucking Palestinian terrorists who were at fault.
Yeah. And assholes like my former building manager saying, history. Yeah, history. Yeah, exactly.
History. 239 fucking Palestinians had been killed between January 1st and October the 6th last year, as compared to less than 20 Israelis. Yeah, history.
Yeah.
2 weeks before fucking October the 6th, Benjamin Netanyahu goes before the United Nations and talks about fucking the new Middle East and holds up a fucking map and shows all of Palestine is now Israel. That's the new Middle East. History. How many? 700,000 Palestinians displaced in the first year and a half of Nakba, 1948.
Yeah.
700,000. And now from Rafah, 768,000 displaced inside of fucking Palestine, once again shoved out of fucking Rafah towards the beach.
Yeah.
Pushing them towards the fucking Nakba fucking pier. Yeah. History.
Yeah.
History. He's right. That's history.
And you know, C.J. Hopkins. So listen, he's a writer, playwright. That's his background.
Yes.
It's not geopolitics. It's not history. It's none of that. So he makes superficial kind of hipster kind of commentary on world affairs that he knows fuck all about, really.
Yeah.
He uses this global capitalism, painting all governments in the world with the same brush, that they're all the same.
Is he a
neoliberal
libertarian? Is he a neoliberal libertarian?
He's an anarchist and proud of it, because I remember he used to follow me on Twitter, I think a previous account, and he unfollowed when I started criticizing anarchism and the problems with anarchism. Because it's ultimately, like, anarchism originally was resistance.
Yes.
Back before there were actually governments for the people. You know, in the Gilded Age, that's when anarchism rose and became a resistance movement. But that it lost its relevance when there were the Russian Revolution. And like when FDR became president, it lost its, there was an anarchist who tried to assassinate FDR, interestingly enough. Anyway, so it lost its relevance, and now it's used as a form of free market fundamental. Some libertarians will call themselves anarchists, you know, anarcho-cap, like Javier Milei in Argentina.
He's a pure neoliberal.
They're free. They're all, yes. Neoliberalism is free market ideology. You know, the fake free market. There is no such thing as a free market. Yeah. So he's an anarchist, and he unfollowed me when I was criticizing anarchism. He's a big fan of Hannah Arendt.
Oh, that's right.
Who was an anarchist, but also a hardcore Zionist. Hannah Arendt, anarchist. Yeah. So she's the one who popularized the term totalitarianism, comparing fascism and Nazism to communism, as though they were the same thing. She's the one that popularized that because she had a Nazi boyfriend. So she did. She had a Nazi boyfriend. Anyway, so yeah, he'll cite Hannah Arendt all the time as though she were some big revolutionary or something. No, she's a Zionist.
So I haven't been, as some of you might have already figured out, I was taking a nap for about an hour or 2 hours before she called.
And now he's awake.
I had just, no, not even close. I'm still asleep, actually. This is a dream. This is all a dream. But I'm in the Matrix right now. Before I had taken a nap, I had just published a recording I made, but a shaky cam recording I made.
Yeah, and I told Jake, my husband, Scott's got a nice rig that somebody gave him behind him.
The problem was, the whole time I'm holding it, I'm thinking, okay, I could take a few seconds to run and get the rig. What happened was, I was just fishing through YouTube after putting some stuff up on my website, thinking about my glorious nap, and I came across this thing, and it was from Al Jazeera, and it was a live feed of their fucking decision. And when I turned it on, they were just doing their little duck walk to sit down in the chairs, and I was like, oh, I did this. And so I did. But then once I was recording it, I was like, oh, and my hands are shaking. I could go get my little rig that she sent me. But I was like, they might just say, they might say what their decision is while I'm getting the fucking rig. So I didn't do it. At one point in time, I had it sitting on my belly.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
The camera angle goes down like this for a little while. I had it sitting on my belly. I was watching.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. Then I go to bed for a couple hours, and but I noticed there was a trend before I took a nap, and that was so many people going, well, yes, the IC. In case you don't know, the ICJ ruled in favor of South Africa, and more so, they upheld all of the things that the South Africans had said and suggested. They upheld their own warnings from the January decision and the March decision, which said, this could turn into a genocide. And they demanded that Israel produce reports on what they were doing. So they upheld those things and saying, in fact, it is getting worse. It is leading into those lines. And they talked about the fact that the reports that the Israelis gave them were misleading. Then they shot down the defense from the Israelis back in March of this year, where they said that, first of all, this is not a genocide. And second of all, South Africa has no fucking, no claim to make this, no jurisdiction to make this fucking claim. So all of that they shut down immediately in the first 16 minutes. And then they filed into their findings. And their findings were that their orders were that, the Israelis have to stop all military activity in South Gaza, which I think they should have said all activity in Gaza, period. But
I noticed that too.
They said they had to stop all the fucking activity in South Gaza. They have to open up the fucking, and especially Rafah, they have to open up the fucking borders without any fucking restrictions to immediately start bringing fucking aid in. They have to allow for investigative bodies to come in and do their own research and their own studies and investigations into what's happening in fucking Gaza. And Israel has to produce an actual fucking report, not a bullshit one like they did before, in the next 30 fucking days. This, to me, was a good sign. I noticed immediately people going, well, they're not going to do anything about it, so it's meaningless. I'm wondering if you'd seen anything along those lines in terms of what the response to this ruling on the International Court of Justice today.
Have I seen anything?
Yeah.
I haven't really looked. I know what you mean. People say it doesn't matter. And, well, the World Court, ICJ, their decisions, if to be enforced, they have to go to the Security Council, if I remember correctly from reading. So I get that. But this is a big deal to me. This is a big deal.
I agree.
In the court of public opinion, Israel is just losing so badly. So badly. Yes.
Here's why it's a big deal. In spite of the fact that people, I'm sure, have been saying, exactly what I just claimed that they were saying. Israel, they say Israel has already said they're not going to fucking to what the ICJ said. Yeah. Here's why it is a big deal, and here's why they will adhere to it. The other day I did an article, or I clipped an article talking about another guy, Yair, somebody else, not Gallant, but somebody else, Yair, from a different political party in Israel. And he comes out, and now that's coming out and openly calling for a two-state solution and recognition.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. He's from some opposition party. There's so many parties in Israel, but
There's so many parties. Yeah. People prior to October the 7th, wanted Bibi out. They wanted him out because of his corruption, because of the felony charges against him, because of him trying to change fucking the laws in Israel to empower the fucking administration and legislation at the cost of the Supreme Court, at the cost of the judiciary, so that the judiciary cannot overturn based on the constitutionality of demands they make on the people, like what you said before, like, for example, mandating fucking experimental jabs. This wasn't just the opposition side. We're talking millions of people, if you remember, it's not that long ago, who were out in rallies to get rid of fucking Bibi Netanyahu over this. There were people in the Likud party who wanted his ass the fuck out. Now, half of his war cabinet wants him to step down. Everyone understands this thing has been dragged on because he knows, as I said a million times, once it's over, the investigations really start. They're going to find out how many Israelis were killed by Israelis on October the 7th, who gave the order, what they knew prior to October the 7th, and what they ignored. All this shit's going to happen, and he's going to be gone. He'll be gone. The head of the IDF will be gone. The head of the IDF intelligence is already fucking gone. The head of Mossad will be gone. A lot of people will be gone, including the Likud party. They're going to have a snap elections, and his party in power will be out. Plus, they'll pull out of the coalition before that happens anyway. So he'll already be out of power before that happens. Everyone understands that he's there, and he's only still there because he's keeping this fucking thing going as long as he possibly can. It doesn't help that they're stomping on people, they're shooting them with water cannons, they're arresting teachers who have the different opinions. None of that helps. They also understand that this is the first time in their lives, possibly ever in the history of fucking short history of Israel, that world public opinion is really turning on them. It turned on them for Operation Cast Lead and Protective Edge and Pillar of Defense and what they did, shooting people in the legs and across the fence and fucking the Great March of Return. It turned a little bit on them in the progressive world. That's the world, but not wholly across the board. They understand that the last couple of weeks have seen case after case in mainstream media that are trying their best to fucking bolster, the story of Israel is always the perpetual victim. Mm-hmm. Commentators coming on there and arguing with other commentators about the fucking guilt of Israel in terms of the genocide. Mm-hmm. And of course, Bibi Netanyahu's name is always mentioned. Mm-hmm. Now you have the ICC saying we're going to file charges against just these two guys. Mm-hmm. From now, they just said that 2 days ago. They said, well, for now, it's just two guys. Mm-hmm. The ICC says we're going to file charges against these two guys as if it's only two people's problem, only two people's doing. Mm-hmm. And the International Court of Justice comes out and says, yeah, this is genocide. Mm-hmm. And they've been lying to us about and trying to cover it up in terms of their fucking report that they were supposed to turn into us. Mm-hmm. So world opinion is changing. Jewish people are, I know it's.
Well, yeah, you posted on Twitter protests at the U.S. consulate in West Jerusalem.
Yes.
Israelis.
Yes.
Saying end the genocide in Gaza.
Yes.
I got it.
I know it is. You have these Karens out there Jewish Karens out there who are like, oh my God, I can't go anywhere. And then you have a guy in New York saying, this is how I walk up and down the street.
That was funny.
I'm fine. And his buddy, who happens to be Palestinian, comes up and goes, look. And he's
he's in Little Palestine in New York City.
Obviously completely fucking staged because you can see him waiting for his cue back behind him. But I mean, it's the point is, this is reality. This is reality. And I don't want to say that anti-Semitism is on the rise and people misunderstand what I'm saying when I say that. And they say, oh, well, yeah, because look at the fucking protesters. The protesters aren't anti-Semitic. In many cases, they're Jewish. They're talking about they want an end to They want to cease fire. However, I think anybody on our side is remiss if we don't acknowledge the fact that true anti-Semites exist out there. And all this is doing is helping fuel their fucking hatred and adding to their fucking ranks.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the protesters. It's not the people who want to cease fire. It's not the students. It's the kinds of motherfuckers that you don't really see. They don't stand out. They're not, hicks walking around with fucking, KKK hoods. They're people, in $1,000 fucking suits and ties. They're the real fucking anti-Semites out there, And this is adding to this is adding to their fucking fuel to their fire, to their hatred, and it's adding to their ranks. Now, Israelis, here's my point. I know I've gone on for a while. We can talk after this, but
I need to time you to see how long you go on.
This is my time. This is your time. This is my time. We'll be married. Holy shit. But the reason I'm telling you all this is this. People in Israel understand this. And this is where the power of the ICJ ruling comes. And the strength of it. Yes, BB can say, fuck you, we're going to bomb people. And fucking Gallant and you are Gallant and whatever his name is, fuck you. We're going to get what we're going to get and fuck you. All they want.
Yeah.
But the reality is, they still answer to the people of fucking Israel. And if all of a sudden the people of Israel say, this is beyond the pale. This is now, we've got the International Court of Justice saying we're not the victims anymore. We're the fucking perpetrators. Fuck you. We're going to hang this shit on you. You're going to be the goddamn scapegoats. And they are. They should be. You're going to be the ones who fucking, you're going to need to get the fuck out. We're not going to sacrifice all the gains that the Israeli people have made and Jewish people worldwide have made since the Holocaust. They're not going to sacrifice them so that a couple of fucking rich billionaire Zionists in fucking Israel can get their hands on some plots of land in Gaza and to keep fucking Bibi Netanyahu in place. I think that's how that's the real power and the real effect of this ICJ ruling, in my opinion. It's not going to be the power of this is not going to be exerted externally. It's going to be exerted internally. As one more fucking straw, waiting for the straw to break the camel's back in Israel. I think this is going to be close.
Well, I said early on last year that this is what's going on is the worst thing for Jewish people. And I saw a video of a Jewish woman saying, oh, what Israel's doing is confirming all the stereotypes that Hitler pushed. And yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Well, it's not what Israel's doing. It's what Zionists.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Who are in control of Israel. Yeah. And a couple people, a percentage of Israelis. It's like when I took exception with what fucking Norman Finkelstein said about seeming like all Israelis were on board with this shit. They're not. Anyway.
Well, yeah, like no country is monolithic. And yeah, of course, there are Israelis who aren't on board with all this. And I watched a documentary a week or two ago about a village in the West Bank. And there were Israelis who joined in with the Palestinians opposing this wall that the idea was going to build in the West Bank. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of came to understand, I got involved in the Palestine struggle for decades ago. But one of the things that stood out to me was B'Tselem, and I understood. Now, B'Tselem has not done jack fucking shit with what's going on now, but typically what B'Tselem does is they come along in the aftermath with the actual numbers of and other statistics and information about who's hurt, who's injured in these conflicts, like Cast Lead, Protective Edge, and Pillar of Defense, and what happened on the Great March of Return, all those 50 weeks that they did that. There's great information on that. They're Israelis. They're Jewish Israelis, you know, and they are located inside fucking Israel. Again, a bit disappointing in their coverage of what's happening now with Al-Aqsa flood or Al-Aqsa storm, however you want to call it. But still, typically what they would do is come along afterwards and present the actual fucking numbers. And those numbers are never in favor of Israel. They're always honest. And it's probably the best source for information in terms of casualties and fatalities in this quote unquote conflict, on the ongoing conflict. And I think they started up really pretty much at the end of the second Intifada. You know. There's a lot of Israelis who are on the side of peace and a two-state solution. And
yeah, some of them, there was one of the elderly women that was taken hostage. She was a peace activist, and she was one of the early ones released, and she's the one who turned and shook hands with the Hamas.
Yeah,
fighter. Yeah. So
they keep finding more and more fucking literal Holocaust survivors who were children back in the day, who had been in places like Auschwitz and the rest of them, and they're coming out on mainstream media outlets and doing interviews saying, "This is don't do this in our name. Don't commit genocide in our name. You know, this is a perversion." And the people in Israel who consume social media and media on the internet, in spite of the fact that Israel is doing all they can to clamp down on fucking opposition fucking coverage inside fucking Gaza and inside fucking Israel, obviously, you know, doing everything they can. They shut down not only Gaza, not only Al Jazeera fucking network and reporting site, but also the Associated Press. They don't want people. They want, this ruling says, not only do you allow for investigative bodies to come in and start investigating what has actually been happening in Gaza, but they also, in that, they say that they have to allow for the free press to come in and start covering and interviewing and talking to people in Gaza.
Yeah, I've said, yeah, I mean, I've been posting videos. I've been going to protests. I started late. I didn't really know what was going on locally as far as protests. So I think March was the soonest I found out, and I went to one. I don't know how many I've gone to. But lately, yeah, it's very mainstream what's going on now. What the protest
has
become mainstream because it's so obvious what's going on in Gaza. And I noticed the protest on the pedestrian bridge that I posted last Friday, or Monday, sorry. Yeah, on Monday. There were a couple of guys that showed up out of the blue, and I could tell they had been seeing what's going on and said, this is ridiculous. So these are people who are just watching mainstream, basically, and are not happy with what's going on. And they came out. They didn't have any keffiyehs or anything. I could tell they were just coming out trying to find out how to get involved. One grabbed a Palestinian flag, joined in. Yeah, these are people who haven't normally gotten involved in this sort of thing, and they've come out. Yeah, it's interesting.
One of the problems that I had with, and I know I talked to you and said that it didn't deserve. I didn't really want to do a video on the C.J. Hopkins article. One of the things that stuck out and stuck in my craw is his assertion, and I have said from the very beginning, you know, don't know what the exact numbers are in terms of how many people were targeted, who was targeted. Did the Palestinians did Hamas, the Al-Quds force, what is it?
Al-Quds, yeah.
Al-Qassam.
Oh, yeah, Gossam Brigade. Gossam Brigade, yeah, that's the armed wing.
Their version of the fucking Marines.
That's their army.
Right.
That's their army, yeah.
Them and the Palestinian resistance groups, did they even fucking target to kill any fucking civilians? I based on the more I learn, the more I come to understand, probably not. But my point is, and I think it's pretty simple, I was pissed off with fucking C.J. Hopkins with his assertion that setting this in motion in an effort, he acts as if he says that he's come to the understanding, this deep-seated understanding that nobody else can figure out, that they did all this so that they could come to this point right now, where world public opinion has turned so much against Israel that they're going to demand that there is a two-state solution and a recognition of Palestine by the Israelis and of Israel by the Palestinians, and that they will in turn get recognition from Saudi Arabia, the Israelis, and Jordan and Qatar and all these places that happened in the past. And that will create, for the first time in a while, a true peace in the Middle East. He acts as if he's the first one to figure that out, that was their plan all along. That's what they were doing. Which, by the way, is fucking ridiculous, because he's not. But that is what they did. But then he acts as if somehow he has the moral authority to judge whether or not that is a legitimate pursuit, understanding how much the Israelis were going to pound and how many Israelis would go and Palestinians were going to be killed in the process. And he suggests that's their terrorist fucking mentality, that they will sacrifice their own people to that end. And that really pisses me off, because first of all, this is a cushy fucking white dude, I'm guessing is what he is. He's
bourgeois, very petit bourgeois, very bourgeois.
And raised. Yeah. He has no fucking clue in terms of, he's probably never worked a day in a real job in a day, maybe a bartender or a fucking waiter. He has no idea the circumstances in which they live. And I'll give you an example of somebody who's really good on this subject, and that's Norman Finkelstein. Because as he has said himself, he is probably a foremost, him and Noam Chomsky are probably the foremost fucking experts in terms of what led from Nakba until October 7th, in terms of the history of the conflict. C.J. Hopkins has no fucking right.
No, he grew up in Miami, and then from what I was looking into his background, and then he went to New York City because he's a playwright, so the theater circles, he traveled in theater circles, arts theater circles, and then his plays were gaining traction in Europe, so then he moves to Germany in 2004, and is clueless about, doesn't speak German, still doesn't really speak German properly, and was completely unaware of the laws, I guess, in Germany about Nazi symbolism and stuff.
No.
He doesn't know anything about economics, geopolitics, politics.
He doesn't know anything about occupation.
No.
He doesn't know anything about the history of what drives a people, an occupied people, first of all, to resist. Yeah. Which is why Hamas is where they are. Because the other side of the fucking Palestinian coin, you have Fatah, you have the Palestinian Authority, who do not resist, who acquiesce, who bend the knee to the Israeli fucking masters. And you see what's the result. You see the difference between the West Bank and Gaza. He doesn't know the first thing about occupation, doesn't know the first thing about resistance, doesn't know the first thing about sacrifice. Nothing. He has no place, no one outside of fucking Gaza, no individual has any goddamn right to cast any kind of aspersions or judgment on the leadership of that country coming to the decision that they fucking did. Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider we don't know how many Israeli civilians on October the 7th were killed by Israelis as opposed to Palestinians. Because that number could, in fact, be zero. That number could, in fact, be zero. So all they would be sacrificing is their own infrastructure, are their own fucking hospitals, are their own maternity wards, are their own fucking school systems. And I will reference one other fucking point in history for you in terms of this. McNamara having a sit down once with Castro, saying that when in communication with, was it Khrushchev and Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Khrushchev, yeah.
Kennedy and he and others were in the office, and they were talking about what was going to happen during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they wanted to know from Khrushchev, does he fucking, they already knew he had missiles. We all know he had missiles. He said, does he have the fucking codes? And if he has the codes, can he actually launch them? And Khrushchev told him, you set one foot on Cuban soil, he will launch. He says, I know Castro. He says, you have no idea. He's got not only the fucking missiles, but he's got the launch codes because he has one of my generals standing next to him with a briefcase of the launch codes. He will launch. And that freaked out Robert McNamara, and that freaked out fucking John Kennedy. And so when McNamara had a chance decades later to talk to him, I think it was in Miami or maybe California or someplace on U.S. soil, and asked him, he said, you wouldn't seriously have done that. Castro said, of course I would do it. And you would too. He said, McNamara said, you pulled down the temple on your own head? He said, of course I would, before I saw my people fucking enslaved by you. Of course I would. And you'd have done the same goddamn thing. And McNamara said that freaked him out so much he had to get up and walk off the stage. Because you know what? He was fucking right. Don't tell me, C.J. Hopkins or anybody else, that taking this drastic effort, this drastic action, pulling the temple down around on your own head is something you can't understand and nobody would do except for a monster. Cuba's free today. Free today because they had a monster. Go back to the fucking American fucking Revolution, Revolutionary War. We're free today for the same goddamn reason. Don't present this as some kind of fucking act of terrorism. You can only go and be pushed so far before you say, you know what? Yeah, I'll pull the temple down around our own heads, rather than let us be enslaved.
Well, you know, C.J. Hopkins is really good. He always sneaks in Cold War propaganda in his writing. He does that all the time.
He does.
And as I was digging through, you know, this morning I was looking up, I did a search on him. I found an article in the Atlantic Council, Atlantic magazine, defending C.J. Hopkins, of all people. And it was written by a guy who's part of this billionaire foundation, nonprofit. I'm going, this says it all. There's an article in the Atlantic defending C.J. Hopkins, who's been featured on Fox News. And the article that I sent you, I had noticed, because I'm on the email list for the OffGuardian and all these outlets. OffGuardian published his article. Yes. And we've had issues with OffGuardian. They flipped out on me on Twitter because I criticized this anti-China propagandist that they were promoting. Yeah, so they
Anti-China and anti-fucking Erdogan in Turkey, by the way. Yeah. OffGuardian's well known for that. But I just want to make sure that that's, something that's put to rest. Them making this decision is the imperialists in the West would look at what Fidel Castro's decision, Robert McNamara, because he had been institutionalized in that way, had to take a step off the stage and think about what the man said. But he came back and he wrote Fog of War. And when he made that documentary, clearly he understood. Clearly he understood. That is true leadership.
Yeah.
That is true leadership. And that's why they hated fucking Fidel Castro. They hated him. They knew they would never, ever get him on their fucking side. He would never sell out. That's why they hate Hamas. And so what they did on October the 7th, judge it as you will, but it was not an act of fucking terrorism.
No.
It was a last-ditch effort to pull the fucking temple down around their fucking heads.
Yeah.
Finally get a fucking chance at being recognized as a legitimate
because
state.
This nonviolent resistance wasn't getting Palestine anywhere.
What it got them was 230 dead people from January the 1st, 2023 to October the 6th, 2023, compared to less than 20 Israelis. That's what it got them. What it got them was 5,000 plus Palestinians disappeared into black site prisons in Israel. And they're talking now about the 120 left hostages. There are 5,000 plus Palestinians who've just been black bagged, picked up, dragged off in the middle of the fucking night from the West Bank and from Gaza. Yeah, there was, and fucking Bibi Netanyahu was at the UN waving around the fucking map of the new Middle East. Palestine was gone.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I said before, let fucking Justin Trudeau go before the fucking United Nations General Assembly and start waving a map around showing the new fucking North America, and it's just Canada, and then more Canada where the United States used to be. And let's see what the fuck happens. See what the fuck happens.
Well, CJ, he doesn't, it's what's interesting. He doesn't know the roots of World War II.
No.
And look at Stalin. Stalin was trying to maintain peace, but he knew the West wasn't on his side. So he didn't go immediately to war with Nazi Germany. He didn't want war, but you're forced into it just the way Hamas, is forced into taking some action against Israeli security forces.
Stalin wanted to remain neutral in the whole thing. They were like, okay, you guys gonna do this fucking shit, and you can work it out amongst yourselves. This is not a thing for the fucking Soviet Union until
push came to shove. Yeah, well, it was invaded. Nazis invaded. That's what happened.
Until the Germans crossed the fucking border.
Yeah.
And they realized that the fucking arrangement that they had to leave us the fuck alone had been violated by the Nazis, by Hitler. But you know where the decision came from. This was long before we got involved in it. You know where the decision came from. The decision came from the West. The same people, the same interests that made Hitler Time Magazine's Man of the Year twice. The same interests that staged fucking Nazi rallies in Madison Square Garden. The same interests that had financial fucking deals with various businesses that were already at the time taking advantage of free slave labor in Germany and other places.
And then Munich. That was
Munich.
Yeah, Munich. So the West said, okay, Nazi Germany, go ahead to Czechoslovakia. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, I keep hitting this damn thing. I gotta do something.
I have gotten sick of some of the pro-Palestine anarchists on Twitter, and they shit on Hamas. I'm going, and then when I defend Hamas, they've called me a commie. Like what?
Ah.
Yeah, I've been called a commie. So there are these accounts, social media accounts that pretend to defend Palestinians, but they shit all over Hamas. Okay. What's that? Zionist propaganda. Great. Okay. What is that?
Because they're fucking pro-life. Holy shit.
What?
I'm just laughing that they call you a commie because you're.
Yeah, I was called a commie for defending Hamas.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah, you're a commie.
I haven't heard yet from the ICC if the judges have ruled on those. But here's another line of thought in terms of what's happening. The ICJ, we know, has issued some decent rulings in the past, but also issued some rather, shall we say, flawed, pro-fucking regime change rulings in the past. So why did they? And of course, is it the president or who? What was all four of the fucking decisions that they read that I mentioned were 13. The count was 13-2.
Oh yeah, I heard 13-2. Yeah.
The American, who I think is one of the leading people on it. What's her name? I forget her name. She voted along with the 13, not the 2.
Okay.
So my thing is this. My question is this, and this is something you can chew on. Just kind of spitball. If the ICC comes out and says, and they issue their fucking warrants against fucking BB, is this an indication that the U.S., in spite of the fucking lip service they pay, saying, oh no, the ICJ, and oh no, the ICC can't do this, in spite of the lip service they pay, is this an indication that the U.S. has said, you know what, fuck BB, we want this done? Because a long time ago I said, the real masters of the universe are tired of this. It's costing them money. The problem with Saudi Arabia and what Saudi Arabia wants to do in terms of opening up their investments, but they're tightening the purse strings because this shit's going on. They're saying, you know what, you guys fix this. So now the ICJ and perhaps even the ICC, we know the ICC has already gone forward and suggested arrest warrants. That's one thing that you wouldn't expect in the past. Now we have fucking the ICJ coming out and ruling in favor of South Africa. My question is, are these just further indications that indeed the current regime in fucking Israel is doomed, and they're sending a message saying, you know what, this is over, wrap this shit the fuck up now, or it's going to get even worse? That's my question.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because I don't think in the past this kind of action could have been taken. These actions could have been taken during Gaslit, pillar of defense. Certainly the fucking 50 weeks of shooting people in the leg during fucking the March of Great Return, and none of this shit happened. None of this shit.
No.
Yeah,
it's very different situation now. Very different.
It's very different. I don't know. Listen, it's different, and the numbers are slightly worse. Somewhat, they're definitely worse. And the destruction of the infrastructure is much obviously worse. Mm-hmm. But you have to remember, when Cast Lead happened, it was shocking. It was shocking. And then Pillar of Defense, and then what was the third one? Protective Edge. I think Protective Edge was the worst of them in terms of the numbers of civilians killed and the number of children killed. I think they got progressively worse, or maybe Cast Lead, and then the last one was the worst one. The second one wasn't as bad as Cast Lead. But they were shocking. Just like what we're seeing now is shocking. Yeah, this is worse, but there was nothing like Cast Lead before Cast Lead. Nothing. Nothing. And then for 50 weeks, shooting all these fucking people in the leg, killing 400 and something people, injuring 10,000, killing children, killing fucking aid workers, killing fucking women, shooting from inside Gaza, inside Israel, across the fucking fence, inside fucking Gaza. That was awful. That was shocking. And yet nothing like this. I think that because it's been dragged out as long as it has, 227 days or some shit now. I think big finance, big business. I think the Black Rocks and State Streets and Vanguards have said, you know what, we're tired of this shit. And it's costing, people don't talk about this either, it's costing Israeli businesses inside Israel money. They're going through a recession, a tightening, and they're getting tired of it. It's hitting them in the pocketbooks, and they're getting fucking tired of it. I don't know. I just think that this exact thing happens instead of Cast Lead in 2008, 2009. I think this exact thing happens. I don't see the ICJ getting this fucking ruling, making this ruling on behalf of South Africa. I don't. I really don't. So, I mean, to me, this is a message being sent to the people in power structures inside of Israel. This is going to get worse. It's going to get worse for you the longer this goes on. So you better fucking fix it now inside of fucking Israel. And that's what I think the strength of this ruling comes from.
Well, I'm going to be really cynical right now. I'm thinking of the local event being scheduled for Sunday. And I'm going, okay, look how bad things are. So the local group, pro-Palestine group, is scheduled a local university professor to speak on wars and climate change, the case of Gaza. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I guess we got to take the heat off of Israel or something. Like, what? IDF? Take the heat off the IDF? Like, the timing of this, like, oh, what?
Well, these people want to cross promote. They always want to cross promote with their fucking particular goddamn pet fucking cause they have working. That's one thing that bothers me is when I hear people talking who are, on our side with this and the ceasefire situation, and then they bring up other bullshit like global warming or,
open the borders. Let the Palestinian refugees come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or they stand with Palestine, stand with the Ukrainian Nazis. Those motherfuckers.
Yes, I hear it all locally, and I
know
kept a little bit quiet, but I pushed back some. Yeah, I hear a lot of bullshit at these events, and I try to tell them, listen, let's just focus on this one issue. Can we? Don't drag your other shit in here. And the guy the local organizer, the local group, I would always cringe whenever he would say at rallies, we condemn Hamas's atrocities on October 7th. I go, what? He was always putting that in.
Well, again, once this thing comes to a fucking head and it comes to an end, there's going to be investigations. There'll be investigations coming out of fucking Israel for years, and nobody will pay attention to them, but a few of us will, and we'll find out, yeah, oh, look at that. All those people that were killed at the fucking rave, it turns out they were shot with fucking 50 caliber fucking munitions from gunships and not fucking 5.56 fucking ammo rounds from fucking AK-47. And that'll happen, and it'll pass under the fucking radar, and people forget all about it by then. Because what's going to happen after this, when they do have to fucking recognize Palestine as a state, they do bring in that Yair guy, whatever his name is, not the Galant, but the other one, and he takes over. Or who was the other guy? Benny Gantz, whoever it is, who goes on record and is the guy who finally says, you know what, I'm going to sign a real two-state solution, and I'm going to recognize fucking Palestine and get recognized by all these Muslim states and put an end to this conflict. Then we're going to go into the rebuilding Israel's fucking reputation stage. And so the real investigations of what's happened are going to be swept under the fucking rug. It'll be hard to find, unless you're really keeping track with what's going on and what in these investigations, who actually did what. But we'll see. But I'm in a way, I'm disappointed with C.J. Hopkins, and I'm glad you pointed out this bullshit fucking article that he wrote. I'm disappointed in C.J. Hopkins. He had done some good work before, but like you said, he'd also done some bullshit before, and he's always seems self-serving. So I'm disappointed in Mr. Hopkins, and but at the same time, I'm also encouraged for these reasons by what happened with the International Court of Justice. So it's a mixed bag.
I'm encouraged. Boycotting has been effective.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there's a local in Vancouver. There was an Israeli restaurant featured in a mainstream article alongside a Palestinian restaurant. Well, the woman who ran the Israeli restaurant, Israeli cuisine, she was saying disgusting things about Palestinians. Here's a quote from her. She said, "Not all terrorists are Palestinian, but all Palestinians are terrorists." Oh, nice. That's including the kids, that they'll all grow up to be terrorists. She was saying disgusting. And as a result, her restaurant, she had to sell off her restaurant.
Good.
Because people were boycotting her. Good. And it was closed appropriately enough on Nakba Day.
Good. That's a good get rid of.
Whereas the Palestinian restaurants, there's one here in Abbotsford I've gone to. It's an excellent place. They're not doing that. They're not, they're not saying disgusting things about Israelis. They're not doing
all
that.
Jewish people and all fucking and let's be honest, all fucking dual citizens between Israel and American, United States or Canada, aren't saying the same shit that she said. What she said sounds like a very fucking ethno-state fucking Zionist.
She was denying Palestine ever existed, or there's such a thing as Palestinians too. Like
Jewish supremacists kind of thing to say. And not all Jewish people, and not all fucking Israelis, obviously. Okay, we're at an hour and 20. Is there anything else we want to talk about? No. You want to talk about space cadets?
No.
Okay.
Boundaries,
Scott.
That's an insight. That's something inside.
Should we give
boundaries?
People of you a glimpse of the bonus?
I said to you, I haven't seen Bo in ages.
He just got up from his sleep.
I'm enjoying this camera.
And he ran out of the fucking room. Bo, come here.
Bo, come here, bro.
Oh,
Bo.
Oh.
This is funny. That's
Oh.
funny.
That's
Bo.
Oh.
Where are you, Bo? There's me. Okay. Oh, there he is. Oh, look at him with a toy. He brought a toy, Bo. Bo brought a toy.
Oh, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Fucking just walks through the camera shot. Bo, hit your mark. Come on. Learn something from Gabby. Learn something from Gabby. Come on. No, not the microphone. Learn something from Gabby. Gabby hits her mark. She knows. She knows. Oh, okay.
That's funny.
What are you doing? Come on. So Bo is doing well. Bo is doing well. He's gone. He's off.
Oh, well, I guess that's it, huh? That's what you should have done with your phone today, is at the end, it's just...
Hi. How you doing? Oh, kisses. Thank you very much. It's very nice. He's like, what are we having for dinner?
Yeah, he's ready.
You got that? He's gone. Okay, so there you go. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
I love the shaky camera moving around.
It's kind of back in the right place. Was it in focus? The bonus?
Yeah. He was. Yeah, the camera focuses. Oh, just fine.
Yeah, nobody ever sees the bonus because I'm in this now, this fucking god-awful fucking cubicle thing I've got. And he doesn't like that. I need a place right here.
Yeah, Bo.
The bow to hop up on. Maybe I take this out.
Some steps or something.
Take this up, put some steps up, and Bo just lays down there and just farts during all my videos. He sits there and just drools and farts and dreams, and his legs start kicking, and no one takes me seriously. But that would probably get me more fucking views than I get right now. So there you go. That's a bonus. A bonus. A bonus.
Bonus. A bonus.
Yeah. No. All right. So there we have it. I'm so glad we did this. We haven't done this in so long. 2 months.
I know. You didn't. You said, yeah, I don't want to cover that bullshit. CJ's bullshit in his article.
Well,
because it is. Yeah.
I'm glad we. It needed some kind of attention to be paid to. Like attention must be paid sometimes in positive ways, and attention must be paid sometimes in.
Well, CJ doesn't realize if he wants to garner some kind of sympathy for what he's going through in Germany, he has to support.
He has to show. He has to show.
Yeah.
If he wants to garner sympathy, he has to display some kind of empathy.
Yeah.
And right now, it's just all about.
It's all about him. I'm the victim. He's always playing the victim card all the time.
That's a problem with a lot of these COVID-19 people who got a lot of attention, and rightly so, because they were right on the COVID-19 thing, but in the lead up to it, they were all on board with the neoliberal shit. And now in the aftermath, they're still all on board with the neoliberal shit, and now the Zionist shit. It's always about, with the COVID-19 thing, it was all about what are they doing to us? Oh my God, they're doing this to us.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody else. That's like with the truth thing. The longest time, they said, oh my God, they did this shit to us. Okay, well now we're talking about what's going on in fucking Iraq. Holy shit. They're like, well, fuck them Iraqi raghead fucking jihadis.
Yeah.
They didn't give a shit. Same shit being done overseas to other people. Don't give a shit. Just don't do it to us. And that's kind of the mentality that some of these people are fucking displaying. Now, I was surprised to see that apparently Alex Jones is on our side. And to be honest, how could he not? Because it's so goddamn obvious. But from what I understand, Alex Jones is on our side in terms of what's happening with Israel and Palestine. And in a big way, from what I understand. So good for him.
Well, there's a lot of issue, like the ones that, if they, 9/11, like you made a video and you're talking about, that is. And too many of the pro-Palestine figures still push the bullshit about 9/11, that the
Yes.
evil Muslims did it. They still do that, including George Galloway.
Yes.
Getting up. I hate that.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is, if you're not standing up for what really happened on 9/11, the inside job, and Israel played a big role in it. The West, it was not the Muslims.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're not on that, if you're not saying the right thing about 9/11, fuck you, I say, because you're part of the problem, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's either you're part of the problem because you're complicit, or you're part of the problem because you're lazy.
Yeah. And Julian Assange is another one.
It's okay to come out in favor of, like in the Max Blumenthal network or the Steve Bannon network. It's okay in the Max Blumenthal network, not the Steve Bannon network, to come out in favor of the fucking Palestinians and accusing fucking the IDF of genocide. However, the moment you start talking about something as fucking controversial as 9/11, you will still be fucking extradited. Yeah. That's the end of your meal ticket. You're not getting the fucking airline tickets and the hotel stays in these other countries for these events. You're not part of the network anymore. You're not getting the fucking, and in fact, they will just completely fucking attack you and destroy and destroy you, and you'll be gone.
You're excommunicated.
Exactly, you'll be excommunicated.
Another thing is Assange. Like, I get so sick of that. And they've like, oh no, the journalist, he's being persecuted. This is like the Palestinians. Like, what?
Well, Snowden and Assange, those two.
Yeah.
Those two.
Yeah.
Ops. Yeah.
All those. Yeah. Whistleblowers. Whenever I say whistleblower, I'm going, okay, whistleblower, leaks, files, projects.
Why the key leaks? Yeah.
Yeah, and Pegasus project. That's the one I got. Yeah. People shitting on me over pointing out that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All
right. That's it.
I'm glad we did this.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Bo
upstaged us, though.
He did.
He ruined it. He upstaged us.
He didn't even have to fart. He He's such a good dog. Okay, so we're going to do this again in less than 2 months, right?
Yeah, sure, we should. Yeah. Well, I've been going. It's nice to go out to the protests and talk to real people instead of being on social media. That's what I realized. Yeah. And I don't agree with everybody on everything, but we're out there for Palestinians in Gaza.
Yeah. We're out there. I like your new lever doorknobs.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah. I mean, now that your headphones and I can see it. Yeah.
I can't see it because of the.
My
name is on the camera thing there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
They look very good.
My handyman installed them. My handyman, Jake
installed
my living handyman. He did a good job. He thought he was going to have to get somebody to do it, and then he realized how easy it was.
Yeah. It's just tedious. It just takes time. Yeah. When are you going to get some art hanging up? Come here, you get one of these. Okay.
I'm not doing a bookcase. I'm not doing that shit. The bookcase shit. Not doing that.
I can see what looks like some kind of comforter behind you.
Oh, that's a family quilt. Yeah, that's there.
Bo brought me something.
Huh?
Bo brought me something.
Oh, is that the duck? That's the toy. I thought you said he tore it apart.
Well,
is that another one?
No, this is the one. I thought he tore this one apart, but he actually tore its brother, the brother duck. He actually tore the duck apart. So.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm out.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
See you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening to us. For what it's worth. Okay. Thanks, Scott. Talk to you again sometime.
Thank you. I enjoyed
it.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, I'll end this. Let's see here. Stop.